procrastination? Like, if I'm avoiding something, is that something that I shouldn't be doing?
There's no should. You can procrastinate or you can not. One is not good and the other is not bad.
Hi, Kapil. I guess I have a question around how does one know when someone is receiving truth or in the presence of real truth and you're not falling victims to truths that are really untrue?
Well, it is an intellectual. I think the human beings within them have receptors for truth to some degree, regardless of whether they intellectually understand it or not. Many times a person will come across something and it will strike them a certain way as being as striking them deep in the heart of hearts, because either it coincides with their experiences of life or it just feels like absolute truth, explain it or not. If something has to be put into a pie chart with diagrams and a line down the center with pros and cons and 14,000 statistics and put on a PowerPoint presentation, it's garbage. So something is either instant and spontaneous and recognized on a visceral and biological or deeper than biological level. And it tends to be, has the possibility of being truth, where that is intellectual and academic is usually garbage.
What do most women find attractive in the opposite gender?
Hi, Kapil. I just wanted to ask, you had suggested that being surrounded by untruth prevents one from seeing the truth, or our search for prescription prevents us from finding the truth. I wanted to ask if, I guess the implication, at least for me when I was listening to it, is that these sources are fundamentally like from other humans. I was curious as to if natural environments can be a source of truth or untruth. Is there
No, it's a fair question. Now, I would say that all of your friends speak untruth.
Okay.
All of your teachers speak untruth.
Is there something?
All the books that you read speak untruth. All your teachers and mentors speak untruth. All the newspapers and media that you watch or read speak untruth. Everything around you speaks untruth. Now, if you find a particular source that, whether it's in speaking or in reading, which strikes you as entirely different and entirely unique and entirely opposite of everything that you ever heard, and for whatever reason that you can't necessarily explain, it strikes you deeply that something is there, then you may be onto something.
So, for instance, like this summer, I saw a waterfall that spoke to me very deeply. Is there truth in that waterfall, or could there be?
There could be, but that's irrelevant though. That doesn't solve any of your problems. I mean, it's so you could be experiencing that as a nice, beautiful, peaceful experience. So, is there truth there? Sure, there's truth across all of nature. Absolutely, pure nature is truth. There's no question about it. But typically, human beings are looking for ways to solve the many existential and acute problems of their lives. And looking at a waterfall is more of an escape than anything else. So I'm talking more from a truly utilitarian perspective.
I'm wondering if there's some people whose speech or writings or messages of truth resonated with you. Example, I guess, Krishnamurti.
No, I don't. I can't really say that many. I would say actually that some of the things I wouldn't say it's what necessarily any teachings, but people such as Buddha and Jesus, I think, are very inspirational people.
Hi, Kapil. On one of your private discourses, you had mentioned one who has attained truth never leaves another human being astray. So,
do you mean the public discourses or the private discourses?
I don't know the exact term. It was on SoundCloud or YouTube. It was one of those two.
I see. Okay.
So I'm curious if my profession, I'm looking to find truth in my profession, and it is to convince others to purchase a solution. Am I prescribing those individuals and leaving them astray?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone who has to convince anybody of anything is nothing more than a salesman, right. And there's nothing at all wrong with being a salesman. I'm not here to downplay anything.
Right.
You could sell rocks for a living. It doesn't matter to me. There's no evil, or unless you're doing evil, of
right.
course. But yeah, I mean, if you have to convince someone to buy something, you're selling used shoes. Your thing, to me, a thing doesn't really have any value. If I have to convince someone to buy something,
right.
if I have to talk them into it. I guess for me, I come in a very opposite perspective. Like I don't even want anyone to buy my stuff because I don't think anyone deserves it, to be honest with you. Because you have to demonstrate a certain degree of honesty and sincerity to benefit from it anyway.
Right.
So I don't like providing truth to people who are really insincere. It's a waste. It's a waste on my part. Right. So that's the answer to you. That the word convince is a deal breaker right there.
Okay. So, I mean, every business leader has to drive revenue to their company. So how can they go about that without prescribing solutions?
Yeah, I mean, there is a genuine way to do things in which things happen by themselves. And this is not the forum to go into that. I mean, that's a long sort of systematic approach deep into oneself to find out how that can organically happen. It absolutely can happen, but that isn't just do this.
Understood. Thank you.
Creates a filter. No good or evil relates to morals and how we see it. Does that mean our consciousness or our default programming is a filter?
The default programming is to believe in concepts. The default programming is to be bashed over the head with do's and don'ts, shoulds and should nots, goods and bads. You are good, you are evil. You've done the right thing, you've done the good thing, get a gold star or get a smack in the face. That's the conditioning. That's the filter that's been put upon human beings.
Sometimes there is a seeing or a recognition of something on myself or anything that happens without the mind. Same thing, for example, with a feeling that's like a wordless kind of question inside myself. But the moment right after it, there's a thought that tries to kind of explain it or rationalize it, and I feel that it takes from the essence of the original feeling or seeing. What's the reason that that thought arises?
Because you've been conditioned to be intellectual and prescriptive, and therefore that doesn't go away very easily. And in all honesty, it'll likely never go away at all.
Two following things to be true. Nothing can be taught, and only when the student is ready, the teacher appears. How do you would like to hear your perspective on these two things?
It's too open-ended of a question. If you have a specific question, you can ask it.
Specific question is, if these are indeed true, what causes you to teach? I find your teaching to be true, but if it is indeed true that nothing can be taught.
Yeah, I don't. Well, first of all, no. I mean, you brought that. You brought the nothing can be taught part. Okay, I didn't bring it. And number two, I don't try to teach anybody anything. The learning happens by itself. I never give any prescriptions. I never say that you should do this. I never give you any method or technique. I never hope that you listen to what I say. In fact, I go out of my way to do the opposite because I don't listen to anything that I say. So I can hardly be described as a teacher. So I don't try to teach anybody anything. I don't enjoy teaching, to be honest with you. Where there is sincerity, learning will happen.
Great. Thanks.
How does one become a good custodian to someone who's vulnerable? Say you're a parent of a 5-year-old boy. How can you keep yourself away from offering those prescriptions which might lead him down the wrong path?
Well, there's no way that you're going to be able to do that because you're asking me for a prescription as to how not to prescribe.
Hi, I was wondering, can you think of point at like a specific time or time period where you personally felt like you transformed in your life or you became devoted to the truth?
No, these types of questions really are like questions they ask in interviews, and they have no meaning, and usually the answer is a lie. No, there's never really this before and after moment. I mean, it's never that clean.
Hi, Kapil. I've been following your work for a few years now. I've probably read all your books. I've watched all your videos on YouTube. I've listened to all your podcasts. This is my question, and I really, really need a genuine answer because it's been on my mind for quite some time. Some of my friends don't communicate the best, whatever the problem may be. I don't know why. Some of my friends communicate a lot better than others. I guess my question is, why do some people communicate better than others and some don't? Is it...
You had mentioned that you shouldn't have prescriptions, but to eradicate, for example, the ego, wouldn't you...
Okay, I never stop. Well, hang on. If you think that's what I said, then the rest of your question has no validity.
Okay.
Because the rest of the question will be based upon that false foundation. I never said that you should not follow prescriptions. That's not what I said. I could not care less if you follow prescriptions. I never said that you should not follow prescriptions. You will not find that phrase anywhere in my writings.
Okay. It's more about not allowing prescriptions to.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't allow prescriptions to do anything. The words are very, very important.
Right.
That this is not just semantics. If you you have the desire and the longing to look into if prescriptions have helped you or not, then you may. But to take my lead on it, my lead isn't to lead you. I simply say the way things are. But I never say that I should convince you of them or that you should believe me. Don't believe anybody. If you wish to look into it for yourself, you can see for yourself where they have gotten you. And if you find that they've gotten you somewhere, you should never listen to me again.
Understood. Thank you.
Hey, my name's Alex. I read in your book, Direct Truth, something about you can either have your mind or you can have the moment, but you can't have both. If you could maybe say something about that, that's really been something I've thought about a lot. Thank you.
What don't you understand?
Can't you be in the moment as well as being aware you're in the moment? Or if you're aware of being in the moment, does that take you out of the moment? Kind of, yeah.
Well, I didn't say anything about awareness. Okay. I was comparing the mind to the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Kapil, what are the questions that a master asked himself to make the mind his slave?
I'm not sure. That sounds very much like you perhaps picked that up from Discourse and then are presenting it to me.
No, I haven't. I just have been thinking about that.
What is a question that a master asks himself for what?
To make the mind his slave.
That's too. That isn't a natural question.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Kapil. My question is about. I'm curious to whether you have if you know for yourself that there's no value or any honor towards society whatsoever. I can see how there's like a pollution side to an individual from society, but for myself, I can't see how that society is not integral to an individual as well. That's my question.
Well, that isn't a question. That's your belief and your opinion. That's fine.
Well, I guess.
Why are humans obsessed with creating prescriptions? What is the value humans gain from giving prescriptions to other humans?
The human being is mired in cosmetics. The human being is a cardboard cutout. He's a plastic creature. He's really a semi-human. Therefore, he will look for the cosmetics in everything. He will look for the superficial in everything. He is not real. He is not deep. He is not genuine. He is false. And he lives in a world of cardboard cutouts and neon lights called society. That's why.
The DNA that you usually refer to, the DNA that is needed to be serious, is that DNA present by birth, just like some ability like sprinting? Some people just have.
It's a fair question. The DNA that I speak of is not genetic DNA, but the DNA that I speak of is more a sensibility DNA. Almost how the individual is wired, what his nature is, not what his biology is. So it should not be confused with chromosomes. So it is more along the lines of one's nature. And some people's nature is to be common, which is basically almost everybody. And then there are those rare individuals whose natural proclivity, their natural bent, their natural default, for whatever inexplicable reason, happens to be towards things that are not common in society. And because that DNA is very rare, the individuals who find truth or become supernatural in any field are rare.
So, hello. Am I audible?
I didn't hear you.
Hi. Is there any thought which is not conflictive?
It's way too general of a question. I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you for taking the question. I find myself more attracted to seeking truths when my life isn't going well than when it is going well. Is that a sign that I'm not truly sincere? Is it just a present?
No, that's a fair question. And when someone's life is not going well, it isn't that they're seeking truth or seeking relief. So the individual who is seeking truth is, even when your life is going well, there are problems and there are even things in your business or it may be that you're trying to tackle, and each one of those has a practical truth to it. So what you're referring to truth is you're referring to truth as a scapegoat, as a pill to take for relief, and I am speaking of truth as there being nothing else.
Thank you.
Hi, Kapil. What is your reason behind having this open live discourse?
No reason.
Hey, Siddha. I joined a little late, so I wanted to know what is this about. Could we keep the conversation going?
Trying to look for where exactly I'm being insincere and unserious. I'm sometimes confused because there might be things that I don't even know that to look for that. So I wanted to ask, what does insincerity and unseriousness look like?
Well, to ask that question means that you must live in sincerity and seriousness, which you may. If you're having a hard time finding what insincerity and unseriousness is, then perhaps you're living in seriousness.
Hi, Kapil. Is there any nuance in how one seeks truth, but then also would be attracted to something that's contradictory? And I mean from like a genuine desire standpoint. Could someone be deeply attracted to truth, but then also be, say, deeply attracted to pleasure seeking?
Well, there's no rules. There's no contracts. There's no guidelines. If someone is attracted to truth, then they are, and if they're not, then they're not. And if they're attracted to this and that, then they are. But there's no gold star or a slap in the face. It really isn't. You're asking a question that's downstream and irrelevant. The real question is: does someone value truth? Not that they should. Does someone see that truth is the only thing there is? That's the real question. That's as it pertains to what you're asking. That's a more effective question than the one that you're asking. Because if you see that the truth is all there is, and when you remove yourself, the more you stray from truth, you move into disaster, which is untruth, and you bring harm upon yourself, whether it's emotionally or financially or whatever it may be, then naturally you will not leave truth.
May I ask a follow-up question?
Hello, Dr. Gupta. My question is, have you ever encountered a situation where you faced conflicting truths? If so, how do you weigh them?
Hi, Kapil. In one of your previous discourses, someone asked, "What is truth?" And your response was, "Truth is a genuine or sincere longing to finding the truth is itself the truth." So, to be honest, this response seemed like a conundrum to me. Maybe because I don't have a bandwidth to understand, and I think I got this at an abstract level or superficial level. Therefore, I'm wondering if you could help me understand what untruth is or how untruth is different from truth.
Everything that you're surrounded by is untruth. How is untruth different from truth? Untruth is untruth and truth is true.
Yeah, hi Kapil. I have a question. Basically, seeing at your title, it reminds me of one of the point what I think Dr. John Warwicki has mentioned in his YouTube lecture.
Hi, Kapil. I'm going to try to keep this question pretty concise. I attempted to stop. I think I was chasing a state of not wanting to chase because I felt this immense desire for pleasure. And over the past few years, I just gave into it, right? And I just thought, since technically there's a desire there, perhaps just continuously pursuing pleasure will eventually lead to its abatement. But it doesn't. But it feels as if even if we run out of pleasure to seek in specific areas, right, your specific categories, like let's say you're addicted to specific alcohol, then you run out of alcohol to be. I guess the question I have to ask is: the mind's pedal for pleasure, is that a result of not having a specific, not knowing exactly what you want? Is that like a default state of the mind if you're not moving toward a location?
Yes.
Hello. So I have like a deep-rooted question for a person who is living in a society. There is usually a sort of confusion. Should we chase the contentment part or
Once one has found truth, how does one ensure that they stay true? More generally, How does one avoid complacency? Should one avoid change?
First find it.
Hey, Kapil, can you hear me? Okay, so I was wondering, why do we do what we do, and what is the alternative? Thanks.
Work while seeking out truth.
So lonely. Does truth veers off or is it insincerity? And does meditation helps in clarity and seeing the truth? And how to meditate?
You can try it for yourself. There's no reason for me to say yes or no.
I understand.
There are millions of meditators in the world. How many of them do you know that will become realized? You have meditated yourself, most likely. If you had found clarity, then you wouldn't be asking me this question. So it doesn't matter what I say. You have gone through those own experiences yourself, and you've actually discovered for yourself that it didn't really do anything.
Hello, can you hear me?
My question is that if we pick the desires from society randomly, then is it possible for us to tame our desires and redirect it towards the truth and its devotion?
Well, anything at all that you get from society will not be transformed to anything but more on truth. Truth is the only thing there is. A person who moves towards truth, moves towards glory, moves towards peace, moves towards freedom, moves towards success, moves towards all that they've ever truly wanted in their life. And truth comes from exposure to truth, exposure to truth, exposure to truth.